So we're going to talk about careers, ISFJ careers, through the lens of this concept of subtypes.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is it seems that our subtype, or sort of the flavor of the type that we are, has a relationship to our career and vice versa. Yeah. Meaning that there seems to be a bit of a nurture component to our subtype, or sort of the flavor style of our type that we show up as. And this includes ISFJ types. That the career we choose, because we spend so much time doing that. I mean, we're going to spend minimum 40 hours a week generally at our jobs.
Yeah.
And the problems we're solving there, and the situations we run into over and over, and the skills that those career paths ask of us are going to have an impact on, how we're showing up as an individual. And so these subtypes are really good to know and understand, because not only are we looking for careers that suit us as our personality type, in this case, an ISFJ is looking for careers that suit an ISFJ. You're also looking for careers that suit your subtype, and then also help you become a certain kind of person.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be a place where you spend a chunk of change of your time. So the career path you choose, it's not just, will I like that? It's what kind of person is this career path crafting me to become? And I think that's why the conversation around subtypes is very relevant to careers.
Before we dive way in, I did my research, Antonia. I've got my top 10 list for ISFJ careers.
Okay.
Now, as we talk about these subtypes you're referencing, this is going to give that's going to give much more fidelity, but this is the top 10 list according to the internet.
Okay.
And you can already, if you're an ISFJ, you probably read one of these lists before. You know what's coming, most likely. So here is the top 10 list of ISFJ careers according to the internet. Number 1, nurse. Not a surprise, most likely, for the internet's offering. Number 2, elementary school teacher. Number 3, accountant. Number 4, human resources manager. Number 5, librarian. Number 6, administrative assistant. Number 7, social worker. Number 8, paralegal. Number 9, dental hygienist. Number 10, office manager. I was laughing at librarian just because it sounds so, that sounds like so stereotypically a stereotype.
Yeah, it is pretty, it's centered in there. And didn't we talk in a previous episode or one of the other episodes about how it's actually really difficult to become a librarian? You need a ton of education.
Yeah,
and
which I didn't know. That was, you enlightened me on this, that librarians are high level performers.
I think you have to have a master's or something in order to become a librarian.
I didn't even know it was a career option.
Yeah.
Let alone you had to have a mass training. I didn't know this.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So that's actually a pretty decent list. So far, when we read off the lists that the internet recommends, and that makes sense because it's been aggregated through,
of course,
hundreds of thousands, if not millions of different ISFJs talking about, the careers that they choose. But, and some of those have some crossover with these subtypes, but there are things on these subtypes list that did not make that top 10.
Well, and you may be an ISFJ listening right now who you don't identify with traditional roles that ISFJs are told, well, you've got to have this job. And you're like, I have a way different job than that.
I don't want to be a dental hygienist.
Yeah. My job's creative or interesting, or not that that's not, but there's a bunch of other flavors of jobs and careers opportunities for ISFJs out there in the world.
We're going to get a salty dental hygienist coming on talking about how creative their career is.
I'm sure that can be creative. I'm so sorry. That wasn't what I was trying to say.
A bunch of angry dental hygienists.
I feel like talking about ISFJs, they typically understand the standards of culture and all of this. And I feel like I can't, everything I say, I have to give 20 different footnotes to make sure I can modify to any possible configuration of another human on the other side. There's no standard of how I could talk about anything right now.
Because ISFJs are so varied, or?
Well, yeah. What I mean is like I said, the dental hygienist, not creative, but I'm of course there's creativity to that.
Right.
I have to make so much more commentary on everything I say because someone might misunderstand it.
Right.
And assume I'm broad brushing something that I'm not, which takes a lot of time, and I'm sure it's not thorough. That's what I'm saying.
I have a feeling that people with ISFJ preferences that follow us are probably hardy stock.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be okay.
Well, I'm talking to you, ISFJ, that just tuned in.
That's
We're
right.
cool.
We're cool.
You can follow us. It's good.
But I do like the idea of angry dental hygienists. That actually did tickle me.
Okay.
So I kind of hope it happens.
No. I want my dental hygienist to be pleasant and happy people.
You want yours to be happy.
I don't want any angry dental hygienist anywhere in the world. That's a terrible idea.
Set them off on a bad foot before they go to work.
Yeah.
Aggressively cleaning teeth. Talking about that Joel Mark Witt.
Yeah, the CIA starts recruiting for black sites. Like, oh, you're an angry hygienist. You can inflict some torture on people. This is good. Let's do it.
You just went to a place that I cannot follow.
Okay. We got to get back to Dario. Not Dario. We got to get back to the list of subtypes.
Right.
For ISFJs.
Yes.
So the reason I mentioned Dario is Dr. Dario Nardi brought ISFJs into his laboratory, and he connected them to EEG machines. And then he would watch as he ran different ISFJs through a series of exercises connected to brain scan software. He would watch how their brain scans lit up in their brain, the patterns of their brain scans. And he started to notice a pattern of 4 different ways that these brain scans would show up. And then he started to take that information and connect it to Dr. Helen Fisher's work, talking about neurotransmitters and chemicals in the brain, and develop this pattern noticing different expressions of the ISFJ personality type, 4 different expressions, what he calls subtypes. He was going to call them variants, but we know why he didn't choose the word variant at this point because it has total other implications.
Right.
Calls them subtypes. They're not types that you can get static or stuck in. These are expressions of you as an ISFJ. These aren't who you are. That's just the way you express. And there's reasons why they show up this way. And then he borrowed the terms from Dr. Victor Golenko, socionics guy, to use here as descriptors of these 4 subtypes.
Right, with permission.
With permission. So they are called, the ISFJ subtypes that we're going to talk about today are dominant, creative, normalizing, and harmonizing. And there's a bunch of different characteristics of each of these expressions of the ISFJ personality type. And we believe that by tuning into these different expressions of ISFJ, you're going to see some career paths emerge for you, whether they're tailored for your particular subtype that you identify with right now, or maybe a subtype you'd like to lean more into based on the career path you choose.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I do want to emphasize that point again, that your subtype isn't as much pre-wiring as your personality type. It's more the nurture component. So ideally, we could be able to visit all of these subtypes in a single lifetime.
Yeah.
And that gives us some options, right? It gives us a path, right? If we want to grow certain aspects of our personality, we could potentially choose a career, or at least a job for a time that helped bring those elements of us up. And then we can also find things that, if we don't want to change, right? We sort of like where we're at. We can better match career choices to the subtype that we're manifesting. And as I mentioned, that top 10 list that you read was pretty good, but there's a lot of other variations in career paths that are offered when you look at these 4 different subtypes. Oh, I did want to make one quick note, mention that if you're new to type and we're already talking about subtypes, we want to make this accessible to everyone. So I'm going to do my best to keep it as accessible to people who are just learning. But I'm also going to make a note when we're talking to like the type enthusiasts and the type geeks. So we'll do a little bit of both, and I'll always give a word of warning that I'm about to go into technical jargon. Okay, so the dominant subtype.